A senior executive for the pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca has confirmed that his company cannot face legal action for any potential side effects caused by the COVID vaccine, and stated those affected will have no legal recourse. Bearing in mind that Mr. Trump sent this company a $1.2 billion grant of American people's money recently. Actually, now it appears like it was the trust money, but I'm willing to be corrected, to push the development of this vaccine, and yet the people have no recourse if they get ill or die from this virus or vaccine. Seriously? $1.2 billion of American people's money, which likely came out of the trust. There's something seriously wrong with this picture presented, because me personally, I think Harvard and the CIA should have paid for it, given their involvement with the Wuhan lab incident. But this can work for us, as it now has a plausible deniability clause, because people can now refuse and state, I'm not taking the vaccine due to there being a huge element of risk with no recourse allowed. So it can work to our benefit. And I'm asking the legal people in the alt media to draft up a document of no recourse, no vaccine. It's that simple. Now, AstraZeneca is one of 25 pharmaceutical companies worldwide already testing their COVID vaccines on humans in preparation for injecting hundreds of millions of people. Or so we think. And these, according to this report, these are flush times for Britain's largest pharmaceutical company, worth something in the order of £70 million, which is about $80 million. And they've just reported bumper profits of $12.6 billion in the last 6 months alone. So, we have a British company with $12.6 billion in profits in the last 6 months, and Trump, armed with the trust funds, still sends them $1.2 billion of our money for a foreign-based company. Really? And despite its healthy balance sheet, AstraZeneca is unwilling to be held responsible for any potential side effects of its, quote, hopeful, unquote, vaccine candidate. And in other words, the company is completely protected or indemnified against lawsuits from people who are injected with their vaccine and experience negative effects, regardless of how severe or long-lasting they are. And the firm's lawyers have demanded that clauses to that effect be put in their contracts with the countries AstraZeneca has agreed to supply its COVID vaccine. Now, the company says that without such guarantees of indemnity, they would not be incentivized to produce the drug. So in other words, they threaten holding the world ransom. And it seems most of the countries have ceded to this demand. Yes, because they're cowardly globalist jackasses is why. Ruud Dobber, a senior AstraZeneca executive told the CIA-based Reuters, "In the contracts we have in place, we are asking for indemnification. For most countries, it is acceptable to take that risk on their shoulders because it's in their national interest." Really? For national interest, read government interest. Whether what is happening is good for the actual people of the vaccinated countries is, to put it very mildly, an open question. Now, Dobber refused to name the countries which have placed orders for the firm's vaccines, although many major Western democracies are likely to be on the list. And the UK government has been on a vaccine spending spree, buying 250 million doses from various big pharma outfits. America, meanwhile, is way ahead of the curve here. They have a special legal framework in which no pharmaceutical companies face lawsuits for side effects of vaccines in case of public health emergencies. I'll repeat that again. America have a special legal framework in which no pharmaceutical companies face lawsuits for side effects of vaccines in case of public health emergencies. And this legislation is known as the PrEP Act, P-R-E-P, was the product of massive lobbying efforts from US pharmaceutical industries and was introduced despite vigorous opposition from consumer groups. And unless the vaccine maker intentionally murders or injures you, willful misconduct, you cannot sue them. So this is what we do. What they do matters little. If they can file for indemnification, so can we. Download their indemnity and create your own based on the indemnity, and you have a valid concern or excuse to then refuse the vaccine outright. So I'm calling on the legal people around the alt media, draft up the document and let's put it on a PDF that can be downloaded and handed out to people, and we can all refuse their vaccine like they can refuse to take any responsibility. So as the UK goes into more draconian and militaristic style speech patterns of strategic surveillance and drills, all very military, some of their latest measures now defy belief and makes the authorities look like the bumbling script-reading fools we all know they are. And they based their decision-making on what is known as the R factor, to do with the coronavirus. But when they are pressed on what the R factor is, answers are thin on the ground. Now it's presumed it is the rate of infection of the virus, but now those statistics are coming down based on the mystery R factor, they're now ignoring that and basing it on something else. And the new draconian measures considered in the UK are lockdowns for the over 50s. So it appears that they're looking after the older people, which flies in the face of sending infected people into their nursing homes and killing them, which is what's took place this year. Now Manchester is in full fear-based lockdown now, said to be due to a spike. A spike. And here's me thinking the comedic Mr. Milligan died 8 years ago. Perhaps it's a different spike. And then they rolled out this. New tech gadgets out now, all very quickly, for COVID testing called the DNA nudge, which conveniently uses your DNA sample to test for the virus. Do they really think we are that stupid? The test kits they are using, which is proven to test a false positive of 80% plus, are now being increased. And the solution to not getting tested is to refuse to remove your mask for fear of infection. So then they can't do the test on you. That's how you counteract it. They keep telling you, you must keep your masks on, risk of infection. So when they ask to test you, turn round and tell them, I'm not taking my mask off. Because then they can't. And perhaps the R factor stands for retards. Because that's what these people are. But what this virus has ultimately shown to us all is the word expert is a gross misnomer. The medical industry cannot give out clear or truthful information. The governments are not fit for purpose as they battle the script-based divide between the two factions, and the media are shameful and shameless psychopathic liars, whose only purpose is to lie through their faked smiling teeth and create fear. Fear-based programs is all they have now. The fear operation they are running now is to cover up the fact that they've lost control of the planet, the resources, the banking, the narrative, and soon the people. Look around you and you can clearly see a world that has lost the plot. It's not a mild loss, but a spectacular one. The wheat and chaff of society has all by now been placed into nice little boxes and separated into the two worlds. Two worlds is now defined like night and day. The major category between the two is those who can think and do for themselves and those who can't. And the separation between service to others and service to self added in. Those who can't look after themselves are more and more pathetic by the day, acting like children following their parents' orders. In fact, the sad fact is, they're not acting like children, but they are children in an adult body. Now, some may say that statement is harsh, but my reply, no, it's not. Just look at them and their actions following orders from their new mummy and daddy called the government, and revelling in the fact that the government is taking good care of them. The government is taking good care of them is the greatest line of comedy ever in history.